On this episode of Team Building Saves the World.
So let me ask you guys, I mean, when you put on these performances, of course, the idea, you want to be able to entertain people. You want them to laugh. You want them to come along in the journey with you. What do you hope for with this particular subject matter? What are you hoping to get at the end of the night?
Well, I'll say selfishly, and it's really fun to look back at the videos and the history of all the shows we've done since 2017, because I can see myself growing as a person in this work. And I considered myself like a woke dude in 2016, but there were a lot of questions and topics that I hadn't actually addressed or thought of. And so to go back and look at how I answered a question, one of the earliest questions Eva asked me was, do I think that Black people can be racist? Mm-hmm. And at the time, my mindset was, oh, well, anyone can be racist because we all have racial biases and we hear stories and things like that. But the idea of racism as a systematic oppression of different people, and you have to have, as a power structure, you have to have power in order to enforce racism. It's like the difference between racism and racial bias. They're not the same thing. And that was a thing I had not encountered before, but being asked it and having to answer incorrectly in front of an audience, then be told the correct answer, and then do a comedy scene about how I didn't understand it. Like that was a growth point for me. And I think that, I was able to take those lumps in front of the audience so that the people in the audience could go back into their own lives and say, oh, I had never thought about it this way, but they didn't have to be embarrassed in front of a crowd to do it.
I want to add on to that in terms of like what I hope and aim for like our corporate audiences to get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To piggyback on what Greg just said is like, in comedy, we have this idea of like punching up or punching down, right? Mm-hmm. Punching down is like making fun of or ridiculing those not in power, right? Or those who are more vulnerable than you are. That's not funny, ever funny. The scenes that Greg just described are examples of like punching up, right? Punching up at authority, up at people in positions of power. And that's where humor can really come from. And so my aim for our audiences in a corporate environment is, yes, to laugh, of course, at that kind of the absurdity, hopefully like Eva asking Greg, can she touch his hair, underlines the absurdity of anyone asking anyone to do that, right? And so, but also like who is the position of authority? Like who is worth being skewered, right? And why? But also Greg and Eva, take the pressure off the audience's shoulders, because they are the ones who are using their skill to have, through improv, these really difficult conversations, right? And so I think it provides an audience a lot of relief, and it gives them kind of an entryway into having those conversations later on as well.
Yep. And I would just say it just also like adds I think for me, the show, like obviously you want to be entertaining, but like it just plants a seed, right? To like, it's just someone to think about it later on in life. And then I'm taking an acting class now, and my instructor says this one line, which is like, he's like, the goal of theater is to comfort the disturbed and to disturb the comforted. And nice. So I think that also in terms of like people being able to relate to this. So like Black women seeing, me asking this white man to run through his hair is an experience that they have gone through, I've gone through, right? Mm-hmm. Is there, and then also those who may have been doing the touching or doing that, like being disturbed a bit and saying like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing that, right? Yeah. So I think that's just a nugget, and it's a safe space where we are in terms of doing it.
Hello, team. Thanks for watching all the way to the end of that video. If you'd like to hear more from that podcast, you can follow the link down in the doobly-doo below. Of course, follow us on all of our social media at Team Bond Podcast, and be sure to leave us a comment that I can read aloud on future episodes. And as always, if you liked that video, don't forget to click like and subscribe. And if you didn't like the video, just shut up about it. Everything's going to be fine. See you next time, team.